you. He goes, they may rob you,
Right.
but they're not going to shoot you.
But dead white guy, now all of a
Yeah,
sudden LAPD's all over the hood.
Exactly. So
combing
don't worry.
the
Go to your
streets.
car. It's all right. So
Maybe it's naive of me, but I always thought, like, when you go to Laker games down in the Forum and you'd stop at like whatever, a liquor store to get or liquor for
Right.
But I always thought, like, well, why would they want anything to do with me? Like, I'm just this guy passing through.
They could shake you down, but they're not going to kill you.
It just seemed like they wouldn't really ever give a I seemed very, in my mind, I seemed very, any white, I just seemed very inconsequential in their day-to-day hustle.
Well, you know what's weird is one of the things I thought that I was going to get a lot of crap for doing this. Like, who are you? What are you doing in our neighborhood? But actually, it was the other way around. The hardest core gang members said, man, we really appreciate you doing this. We want our story told. We know this is a nightmare. We want out of this thing. They don't know how to get out. It was heavy, man. It was really like, I learned so much that whole experience.
Now, were you alarmed? Well, I'm always alarmed, so I'll ask you, and that'll take us in another direction, because this is riveting to me, at how young these kids get jumped into these gangs.
The youngest ones were the scariest. Scariest.
Because they have the most to prove?
No, it's that, and also they just don't know anything. They don't really know the repercussions, man.
What's the youngest kid you saw holding a gun?
The youngest
or with a gun on his person?
No, the youngest kid that I interviewed was 13 years old,
right.
And it terrified me so much that I thought I walked home. I went home just going, I can't make this film. I was a fool to think I could make this film. I'm out of my mind.
Was he a Crip, Blood? Do you remember what set he was from?
He was a Crip, and he was telling me how much he likes shooting people. And it was, and his shot caller on camera was telling me, you can't use this stuff. Because if you use this can indict this kid if he's ever put on trial. And I had to obey that. And I never put that kid in the film. And he said other stuff too that was just shocking. Shocking. And I'm going, this kid's 13 years old, man. He's a child. And he's got a gun. He shoots,
So when you shoot this documentary, do you have to ask these guys to sign release forms?
Yes.
That's got to be the weirdest.
Oh, it's heavy.
That's more uncomfortable than seeing an actual crime go down.
Listen.
Is when you go, like Woody Allen, you're like, listen, Apollo, I really enjoyed your company, but if you could just sign on this piece of paper that says you give me full permission to, use your likeness, in case they ever make like documentary lunch boxes, I could be the first rolling 60s, shot calling, shot glasses, it'd be great. Make Playboy Crip, T-shirts or something. Yeah, Playboy Crip T-shirts.
Oh my God, man!
Well, it seems like there's way more Crips than Bloods. Is that true? Or is
I believe.
I mean,
if I remember correctly,
8-1.
I believe, if I remember correctly, God, I think it is. But you got to understand, though, they're all different sets.
Right.
One set of Crips is not related to another set of Crips.
Oh, I understand that.
They're all sanctioned
And it
different.
seems like
each neighborhood has its own mythology,
Right.
its own history, its own shot callers and leaders.
It seems to me and all I know about this is what I've read, like the book Monster and City of Courts, and the documentaries you see on television.
Right.
Your documentary. It seems like there are way more Crips, period. And way more subdivision of Crips, and way more infighting within the Crips. And it seems the Bloods are a little smaller, more like banded together more.
If I remember correctly, I think that might be right.
It's so strange. And now it seems that it used to be like entire giant neighborhoods would be cut up amongst these crews. And now you literally have like, it's block to block to block. They just keep subdividing, and subdividing.
Yeah, because part of the reason they keep subdividing is that the law enforcement comes in. They do these sweeps. They arrest all the top guys. They get them out of there. There's no leadership suddenly.
And there's a power
struggle. So it fragments.
Okay.
And so 3 blocks become one block setup of 3 blocks becomes 3 different gangs all of a sudden.
Now, did this gang, like these 3 different gangs, are they all in their mind like, we're just holding this down until Big Stacy comes out of jail? Or is it like, Big Stacy's in jail, this is my fucking block now?
It just depends.
It's a smaller piece of property.
Sometimes it is like that, sometimes it's not. The turnover is happening so fast that it's becoming more and more chaotic as a result of that.
And is there less gang banging now than there was when you made the documentary?
When I talk to my connections down there, they still say things are going off. but nobody hears about it because there's no value put on these kids' heads. That's the problem.
And the Mexican mafia and the
Don't
Latino
know
gangs,
anything about that. That's a
they
whole,
weren't even in the documentary, and this
no,
is like
it's
the
a whole other
enormous
story.
Yeah,
Whole nother story. Yeah.
that's the next documentary. But
Yeah. No, I don't think so.
why don't you tell? Well, no, we'll play them the track of Venice, and the mascot was a sword,
No.
a knife, and you go in there and say, give a piece.
No, there's so many stories to be told down there, but there's an amazing amount of stories.
Did you see firsthand the cops coming in and trying to like talk to these guys? Like, it must be such a total disconnect.
All right, my wife's from New York. She's seen Harlem. She's seen all the places there. So one day, she's going to take me down there. I want to see these neighborhoods. And I'm thinking, she's seen all, the Harlem and how beat up that is. And I don't think this is going to be much. We're driving around, and literally about every block we're seeing arrests taking place all over the place where we're driving. And she was in shock.
Is this post-documentary or mid?
It was during the documentary, as I was making it.
Now, as you're driving around, do you feel like you have a little bit of a pass because you know certain guys and certain...
Not when I'm just driving like that. No. Whenever I would go somewhere, there'd be somebody waiting for me there. I never show up somewhere and say, "Hey, I'm here."
It's like going through the Amazon.
No.
Like
if I went to Jordan, like for
yeah.
instance, when I went to Jordan Downs, there would be a guy there waiting, saying, "Meet me at this corner. I'll get in your car and we'll drive in together." If I went to Nickerson Gardens, meet me at this corner. We'll drive in together. Every time.
When you see movies like Training Day and there's the gang scenes in like the cul-de-sac, do you feel now, are you able to call bullshit when you see like gang stuff going off on TV?
You know what I mean. I call bullshit on everything I see on TV.
Well, I mean specifically because you made a documentary
yeah,
about...
I would say that if I saw a surf film on TV, or you know what I mean. It's all the same. They never get it right. You know what I mean. You know that stuff. They rarely get that stuff right.
Was there one set of Crips or Bloods? This is going to be a weird question. Really? Was there one set of Crips or Bloods that when you were around them and with them, you were like, wow, these guys really run their shit well? I guess it's not that weird of a question. Compared to the last 15 crews I spent time with.
No, I never came across that, but I came across some dudes that were really, really, like, extremely active. Like, involved in many, many, many shootings. Heavyweights.
Really?
Yeah, and they were young.
And you couldn't tell from set to set. You couldn't tell it like when you got to one set, you didn't say like, wow, this is a ship that just has sailed and just this is like the last stop on the river in Apocalypse
I
Now.
went to this. I actually stopped at this one apartment near USC actually one day. We went to film some guys there. We pull up outside and it's a 3-story apartment building. And all of a sudden when we pull up, every window opens and all that comes out of these windows are the heads of little children. It's as if like Walt Disney showed up or something. It's like an event was happening. Wow, something different's going on in the neighborhood. But there was no adults. It's just children.
They're all out putting in work?
Just children. I don't know where they are. We go in the back, and there's a bunch of gang members back there. A couple guys are washing a car, and a bunch of them are playing dice for money. They're just hanging out. It's all concrete. It's very hot. It's in the middle of the day. And it was just such a weird setting, man. It was so uncomfortable. And so, it's just so unappealing. It was not a nice place to be. And there was no adult supervision whatsoever. Nothing.
Well, I wouldn't imagine there'd be a good daycare infrastructure.
Everywhere.
Well, yeah, but they're selling crack. There's other...
No, I know. It was just
other
all
shit that's a little
just,
more important.
It just was heavy, and they were boxed in because if they go
Yeah.
2 blocks one way, it's enemy territory. 3 blocks another way, 2 blocks another way. So they're boxed in. They can't leave their area.
So there wasn't... I guess the answer to the question.
No. Here's what I did.
There wasn't one particular set you were with where you were like, these guys actually run. The trains run on time with this crew.
No, I didn't find that anywhere. Not to say it's not there, but what I did find is there was a commonality with all of them, in that when you talk to them one-on-one, they became totally human. All of them.
And that
even the baddest dudes.
That must break your heart.
Oh, it did. It completely did.
You're like, just get in my car, come with me, man. You can hang out. I'll teach you to
all
skate.
of them, all of them. You know, they would tell you, I don't want my kids doing this. I don't want my nephews doing this. I know it's wrong. I'm stuck in this, this vicious cycle. And they say this, and they're rational. But yesterday somebody shot so and so, and it's like, boom.
It seems like they have compassion. If you're like an athlete in the hood, the famous, story is, like Keyshawn Johnson, for example, grows up in that environment, but everyone knows he's like a star wide receiver. and everyone just leaves him alone because he's going to get out.
And they want him to.
If you got a jump
they
shot,
want him to succeed.
they will let you out.
Yeah.
So that speaks to the human element of the gangbangers themselves. Like they know, hey
They're
man,
human.
Keyshawn's going to USC. And that's I mean, one of my favorite expressions, Stace, is word on the street is a word on the street. It's the most powerful. It makes CNN look like a bunch of catty bitches on fucking Real Housewives of whatever. If you go to fucking school and they go, hey, Stacy, Angie's looking for you. He wants to kick your. Well, guess what? Angie's looking for you, and he's gonna fucking kick the. There's no subjectivity to word on the street.
That's
so
right.
The power of all the sets in an enormous neighborhood to say these are 2-3 dozen guys. Leave them alone. They're leaving.
They get a pass.
That's incredibly powerful.
It's heavy.
You couldn't do that with white people in a neighborhood to leave somebody alone.
One of the things that I was running into when I was down there that was really funny is once in a while I'd see these kids on skateboards. And I started, talking to them, and they said, yeah, man, the skateboards give us a pass. I go, what do you mean? They go, well, they look at us, and they don't know what to make of us, and they leave us alone. And I thought, man, that's pretty damn cool.
I bet that shit's long gone.
I don't know, but it's a way. It was a way out.
You have to go by with fucking skis.
I met another guy. I met another former gang member, and he grew his hair into like dreadlocks. And I said, why'd you do that? And he goes, because it sets me outside. I'm not a threat to anybody. They don't know what to do with me, so they leave me alone.
So you've made 4 documentaries?
Yeah, I've directed 4, and I've produced a number of them as well.
So the ones that you've directed.
Dogtown, Riding Giants, Crips and Bloods, and the new one, which is Bones Brigade. Yeah.
And Bones Brigade, I thought we met for the second time. I'm finding out now.
KCRW, yeah. You were killing me that day.
On Kevin and Bean. And you were saying to me, how am I going to follow that? I'm like, you're fucking Stacy Peralta. Just going to talk about surfing and skating. I think you'll be okay. So I didn't listen because I was in my car. I'm guessing it went okay.
It went all right.
But now Bones Brigade, and you can check out everything that Stacy's talking about with this incredible, this team he put together of teamers. This team, because Stacy loves the word team. Look, let me tell you something. That to me is the most lowest, in a good way, lowest common denominator, basic badass way to come up with a name of a crew in the world. I hate the word team. Like, hey, we're the Peralta Powell team. Like, here comes our team. Da-da, da-da, da-da. You guys all jump out in faggoty jumpsuits and shit. Like, no. And then fucking you come up with Bones Brigade? That's tight, bro.
Well, that's cool, man. I appreciate that.
What other, if you... In the NFL and in football, they have like coaching trees. Like Bill Walsh begot this guy, and this guy coached under him, and they all coached together. So, like Tony Hawk, Treehouse,
Birdhouse, you mean?
Birdhouse. Sorry,
yes.
I said Treehouse earlier too, and nobody corrected me, so I sound like a jerk. So thank you for setting. And I have a few actually in the house because he was on Action. We built. He was the guest star on Action. One episode of Action was I wanted Leonardo DiCaprio to be in a Peter Dragon film. And my assistant in the show Action goes, you'll never get to Leo. You got to go through one of his people. Tony Hawk's probably as close as you can get. And I'm like, well, where is this Tony Hawk? What's a hawk? And we built a half pipe. And him and Lance Mountain were just fucking in the movie Half Pipe. Remember the gay porno I made? No. God, sorry. Jesus. I'm sorry. Sorry. They built a half pipe on one of the stages in Culver Studios.
Right.
Just for Tony.
Yep. For the show.
Yeah. And it was so huge and had to have every sponsor that he had to be on it. And out of respect, you go, well, we just want him on the show. It had to have cost $500,000 for the day, the labor to get this thing up and running. Then Tony comes in, and all of Tony Hawk's dialogue he's going back and forth in this half pipe. And he's doing like 720s.
Right.
And all of his dialogue is in the air as
he's skating.
Yeah, he's skating, and I go, hey, have you talked to Leo DiCaprio? And he goes, zhung, and he does that thing that you explained where he does the ollie off the lip.
Right.
And he always kind of kicks it towards you. Yep. And they're going, we need Jay to get a little closer to the lip of the pipe. And I'm like, are you guys out of your mind? I'm going to get decapitated. And then they go, we need you to get closer. We need you to get closer. And then I finally, Tony goes, yeah, it's cool. And I go, can I talk to you real quick? And I've done this with baseball pitchers, like standing in the batter's box. Mm-hmm. I've done this with other guys. And I go, military guys, when we're out doing stuff, ride-alongs. I just said to Tony one-on-one, I go, fuck these guys. If you tell me there's no way you're going to hit me, I'll put my feet over the edge. He goes, there is no way I'm going to hit you. So there I was. And you're 30 feet in the air.
Yeah.
And I'm like, half my feet are over. And he comes up, and I'm like, Leo, did Leo read the script? And he comes up, and he does that exact thing like that. That whip. And the thing is like the
he's
wheels.
right in your face.
I can hear the wheels.
yeah.
Zzz, and he goes, there's too many guns in the script. Whoom, and he goes back down. I go, well, it's called Beverly Hills Gun Club.